Garty, one thing has become fairly clear to me in the last 24 to 36 hours, and this isn't the first time I've come to this conclusion. You know what we could use more than anything else at a time like this, as we're all trying to assess and process another controversy, in this case, another tragedy? We could use a moratorium, as sad as this is to say, on pretending that, A, you're doing nothing but fan the flames of rhetoric and jumping to grand conclusions that only inflame the situation, but I'm lowering the temperature. Because, let's be clear and honest about it, most of the people who are patting themselves on the back for saying they're lowering the temperature, I'm talking about politicians, obviously. I'm talking about elected officials here. They often forget what they said maybe on the last controversy or the one before that or 5 minutes ago. I mean, it cracks me up. I mean, today, the governor was trying to go with well, you haven't heard me say some of the things that some of the other people have. And I'm going, well, did you listen to yourself yesterday? So I think at this point, my suggestion would be stop pretending that we're all in this cesspool. Let's just admit we're all in it. And sadly, we are all fanning the flames in various ways to various degrees, because none of the lectures are making any sense to me. Everybody says it, right? Well, that's what they did. Not what I did. Are there degrees? I'll grant you there are degrees. You know, the Christy Nome degree is probably DEFCON 1. But so I would rather here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell my speechwriters, let's not get into that.
Let's stay away from the thermostat.
Let's stay away from the thermostat thing. Exactly.
Don't touch the thermostat.
Because I may be fraudulent on it. No one's going to listen to me anyway, even if I think that's what I'm obligated to do, because reporters say, isn't it your obligation and responsibility at a time like this to lower the rhetoric, to bring the temperature down? And there's no consistency to it. And so to me, there's no credibility when you try to go down that road. So you're better off, just avoid it. Find other ways to make whatever point you want to make rather than go down that road or fall into that trap, because I don't know how many of these politicians can say any of it with a straight face. I don't. I heard the governor yesterday. I heard the mayor yesterday. I heard the president of the United States yesterday. I don't know if I've heard him yet today.
The VP's been speaking today.
I heard the VP today. And what often happens is it's a game of omission. It's what you leave out that always makes me suspect you and makes it hard for me to believe you. And in the course of the case of vice president, he leaves out the rhetoric from his boss that I think most ordinary people would say, not sure that lowers the temperature or helps matters, or if part of your concern and fear is a belief that ICE members have been assaulted too often or confronted too often, if you leave out the rhetoric of your boss that leads to much of the anger that then gets vented upon the ICE individuals, I can't take you very seriously. I heard Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, on CNN earlier today. I don't know if you heard it.
Did not.
And it was with two anchors included. One of them was Wolf Blitzer. And they both asked him about what he thought of what Renee Nicole Good was doing that day, yesterday. And Ellison said, well, basically, I'm paraphrasing, she's exercising her American right First Amendment right to protest. We protect that right. We believe in that right. And I'm screaming I'm actually listening to this on the radio, even though it's a TV show. And I'm not screaming. That's a bit of hyperbole, but I'm muttering. Well, you left a piece of this out. Are they going to force you to go there, or are they just going to let it go? And they let it go. And so what they didn't ask, which was a perfectly legitimate question, that, by the way, in asking it doesn't mean you are endorsing the notion that this woman deserved to be killed. But it is part of the story if you're following the story. So why not ask Attorney General Ellison, what about the fact that she had put her vehicle in a place that was clearly an attempt to inhibit whatever the activities were, and whatever you think of these activities, that's part of what she was doing? They didn't ask it. And he didn't volunteer it. You can't explore this story, again, not suggesting or even hinting that means this woman got what she deserved. Not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying if you don't have a willingness to acknowledge all aspects of what got us to that point and what she had done, because he's making it sound like she's out there with a placard, walking up and down the street, protesting the activities of whatever ICE was up to on that particular occasion, right? That's the impression he's giving. Well, that leaves out part of the story that should not be. And if you leave it out, what are you telling me? You're telling me that you're going to fix the story, and you're going to remember and emphasize what suits you and what fits what you believe this story represents. And I don't think it should be mutually exclusive. What I'm saying is you can still come to the conclusion that the officer shot recklessly and that there should be charges filed on the basis of the way that the event played out. But you can't leave out, as part of the story, if you're being honest. This is why I don't think anybody gets trusted. Whether it's the VP earlier today or Keith Ellison on CNN, when you leave out the pieces that don't quite fit what you've decided already, even though you've told everybody to let the process play out, then you're telling me you can't totally be trusted on that story. You can't leave out where her vehicle was, what her intention was by putting her vehicle there, and that she did not get out of the car when they very rudely, but nevertheless, told her to get out of the car. You can't leave those pieces out. If you're going to convince me that you want to follow the story wherever indeed it might go. So, how much? I mean, I don't know how much more there is to say today already. I don't know how much new information we have. We have some new information on the shooter. We have a lot more information on the victim. But I would just say eliminate the part of that speech you feel, you're obligated to get to regarding lowering the temperature. Because you don't mean it. Or you mean it when it fits and suits your purpose. And you mean it if it doesn't get in the way of whatever raising of the temperature that you feel is necessary to get your point across. I think we'd be more honest if we said that, but that's the game. And frankly, some of that is media generated because that's one of the questions that you get, right?
Almost immediately.
Don't you have an obligation to do this, and this? And there are a number of individuals who have not come close to doing it, but they want to keep talking about it. Stop talking about it. If you want to talk about the specifics of the case, do that. If you want to talk about the larger implications of what this case represents, do that too. But you're not fooling anybody about the temperature lowering thing. because you only really pay attention to it when it suits you. And you forget, again, in the case of the governor, what he said as recently as yesterday. It's just bizarre. Now, I don't think he was as frontal as the mayor, but we talked about this. It's all degrees, right? So, in any case, that's, in fairness, that's pretty much where I'm at with this thing. And we'll be in and out of the story today. Bumper to Bumper is the name of the program. Barreiro and Guardsy. I'll be here till 6:30. You have to bow out, about 4:30, 4:15?
Right around there, yeah.
And we have, not as busy a show as I would have hoped, because it looks like Sean Salisbury might be unavailable today. Is that correct?
He is at 3:30. I don't know if 5:30 will work. He hasn't gotten back to me on that, but 3:30 is not available.
You propose that as an option. So we'll see. If we get lucky, we'll get him. We do have Russo Radio scheduled for 5:02 today. And we have our favorite geopolitical big knocker, Michael Hurley, at 4:15. Now, Hurley, the inspiration for Hurley had nothing to do with this particular story and more to do with the international relations. What the Maduro story and several others, Greenland included. So my guess is with Michael, we'll go down those roads. Although, as a Minneapolis guy, as a Minnesota guy, I know he's paying close attention and is quite concerned with what's going on here. So he may have some thoughts there as well. I did finally, I'm so derelict these days. I was reminded by the Royce column via StarTribune.com about the return of another Musselman to the barn. USC taking on the Gophers. It's tomorrow night, correct?
7:30.
Right here on the Fan?
Right here on the Fan.
Right here on the Fan. And we've had a good relationship with Eric over the years, had him on many, many times. So I DM'd him. I don't know if there's any shot. I even proposed 5:55, maybe a quick 10 minutes. In any case, we'll see exactly how that plays out. If we get lucky, we get lucky, whatever the case may be. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open at 64686. But let's get a quick pause in, because we're now, as of now at least, guest free till about 4:15. We'll give you a chance if you have any other thoughts to add to this story and cover a couple of other toy department items as well. Stay tuned. The experiment yesterday was to not spend a lot of time on the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line, although ultimately we did when Andy Luger was on, and we quoted a texter who referred to him as a blowhard.
That's right.
And he responded to that. You're the producer of the show.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a choice. I'm going to let you make the call on this.
Oh, wow.
Because we have extra time, we think, without guests right now, at least, correct? So there is a way to go regarding the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line that is less volatile, potentially. And that is, I just read, because we've already got several thousand texts that have come.
I believe that.
So I just read a bunch. Don't comment on them. Don't blow my cork. Just let them lie and let the listeners respond and react in their own minds to them. Or we just go forward with the show and we let you get in this discussion.
Well, I don't need to be in the discussion.
Well, I know you don't need to be, but you have a good head on your shoulders. So
I try.
Yeah, I know. So
it might be an interesting experiment. However, I feel like we know the results of the experiment already.
In what sense? Oh, does it serve any purpose to give the range, the dramatic range of opinion as people apparently process the single same story?
Yeah, it might serve that purpose.
Or maybe it just depresses us? Is that your concern?
Well, it does, because I think we already know the answer to that experiment, that we are going to see an extremely wide range all over the place, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know, because my thing yesterday was nobody surprised us yesterday.
No.
I don't think anybody surprised us yesterday.
No, that's true.
And I'm talking about anybody. And you kind of hit on that a little bit with the rhetoric conversation in the first segment. Will anything surprise us in the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line?
I can read it for you, and you tell me if you're surprised by them.
Okay.
You can try it that way.
Maybe this will help us. We'll laugh through these a little bit.
Well, maybe not. Let's get to it. My God, the ones I wanted to save are already. Hold on. Oh, I'll start with this one.
All right.
Because I'm, as you know, self-deprecating to a fault.
Of course.
Absolutely atrocious take, Dan. I've been a fan of your show for 12 years, and I honestly don't think I can listen anymore after that. I don't know what that is, what specifically I said, but that's the text. I'm not going to respond to it.
Okay.
The only ice that Minnesota wants in its state comes from the weather, not the government. Hashtag ice get the bleep out.
I thought he was going to say hashtag our ice.
Well, it's possible.
Do the Wild have to change their slogan, by the way, even though they haven't used that in like 15 years?
That's a good question. I don't know. None of this would have happened if ICE didn't come to Minneapolis. I don't disagree with that, but I'm already violating my terms. I'm just going to read them.
That's the danger.
That's what you said. You love that Trump is president. All you do with your show is cry about him, so it keeps you employed still. I appreciate your willingness to bring an intellectually honest perspective to this situation. Nice set of stones. Hey, Joe. Who's Joe?
I don't know.
When the Trump administration came up with this ICE program, I was all for it, thinking it would be a good way to get a lot of these illegals out of the country that were let in over the Biden administration. Not saying they're doing it the right way. Not everything they do I agree with, but this deal yesterday, I didn't see the video until I got home last night. After watching the video, my opinion is that when this guy says he was fearing for his life, it is BS. He knows it, and everyone knows it. As she was going forward, her wheels already were turned the other way, and I lost that text, but oh, there it is.
And which Joe?
I have no idea.
Biden, Scarborough, Mauer?
That's a good question. This is John from Hastings. Maybe he can explain it. Maybe it was a dictated one. Dan, sorry if this has been covered, but has video eliminated innocent until proven guilty? Not taking a side here, but it seems both parties involved have already been proven innocent or guilty to fit a narrative. Trying the case on TV and podcast truly inflames the situation without discovery. I don't know the answer. I find I need to turn it off. That's Dan from Owatonna. Now, one of the texts, I don't know if I can find it because there's so many here in a row, and I should have starred them right away, was that, I think I responded to one of them. Let me see if I can scroll down to the green response, and it'll get me to the right place. Dan, the victim was driving home. This is 701 guy. She was then, 1, told to get out of her car, and 2, move her car. See the damn videos. Don't attack Ellison. You are better than that. Thanks. And I said, well, that's interesting. Does that mean Keith Ellison is misinformed? Because he was suggesting she was protesting, in his mind, lawfully, right? Is there new information indicating that she was not there to protest at all? That she was not part of anything but caught in a traffic jam that we have missed? Be glad to pass that along if we get more information on it. If that officer thought his life was in danger, he needs to be behind a desk. Dan, I think the big question should be, why did the woman take off like that in the first place? Appreciate you. Cesspool statement is spot on. My dad used to say there's the truth and there's the whole truth. Unfortunately for us, you can control the thermostat from basically anywhere with an app on your phone.
Oh, yeah. There's some smart homes now.
Dan, I'm sure glad you weren't around after they dumped the tea in Boston to turn that thermostat down. Thanks for listening for the damn Flames. I'm not even sure I understand some of these, but that's okay. ICE has been in Twin Cities for decades. Biden deported 6,500 illegals during his tenure. Trump is on par with Biden administration. We got into this via a text yesterday when Kessler was on. He didn't disagree. In part Because the truth was, there were a lot of folks deported then. The issue is more, well, I heard it from the VP today. Door to door. We're going door to door. Is that precise? Is that like specific individuals? Or I saw some video that I haven't vetted of what appears to be an Uber driver at the airport. Have you seen that one?
I have. Yep.
Now, again, I'm not going to double down on it without being sure that it was not AI generated, and it did happen here, I think, yesterday. If it's accurate, it should be concerning to every single God-fearing, patriotic American, brown, white, black, whatever. And I'm doing it again. I can't help myself. I hate how normalized it has become to view a death in the palm of our hands, or is not going well for our humanity. Keep up the good work. Godspeed today, Dan. Somebody said, well, there is new information worth discussing today, and they're absolutely right about this, and we would get to it at some point, but might as well now. According to the BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, they're out. Their claim is they're shutting down their investigation because the feds are icing them out, no pun intended at all. They're not sharing any information, which is contrary to what we'd heard could be anticipated via Andy Luger yesterday, because a lot of what I don't know, I'm sure Luger got ripped because Luger did not pound his fist, not because I'm sure he doesn't have opinions or even feelings about what took place yesterday, and maybe even opinions about how far the law enforcement officer, the ICE officer, went, but wants to learn more, hear more before he does it. But he did talk about investigation going forward. I would find this, like most people, I think, rather troubling.
Troubling is the word for it.
And not a sign of nothing to hide here.
We're going to get to the bottom of it.
We're going to get to the bottom of it. Exactly it. Dan, I'm pretty sure I know what way you lean, but I do like that you have no reservations on calling the Dems out. Yeah, I don't try to do that. I don't have like a checklist. Okay, I'm going to rip 50% Republicans today and 50% Democrats. There's a lot of days when it's probably more like 90-10 Republican. But a lot of that has to do with the president more than anything else. But you kind of go with how you want to go. Couldn't placing your vehicle in the way be considered a protest? Isn't Tank Man from Tiananmen Square also just called the unknown protester? He parked his body in front of the tank, as I recall it. A very jarring image for sure. Hey Joe is in reference to Jimi Hendrix. Well, that's a great song, but okay. I don't know that.
A little out of context.
I'm not sure, but I guess maybe he's just trying to lighten things up a little bit. Walz wants to go to war with the Minnesota National Guard versus the feds. LOL. Let's get rid of them all and start over. That certainly is a lowering the temperature kind of a message, is it not? ICE wouldn't be here if our governor wasn't a fraud. With as many people who say that I'll never listen to you again, you'd think that you would have been off the air about 20 years ago. Well, that's worth saying. When did respect for parents, adults, teachers, police officers, and law enforcement go away, and why? I'll clean this up a little. Testicles ever get sore from all the fence sitting? Glad you guys are still able to yuck it up as the Gestapo are killing unarmed civilians. That's from 651, unnamed 651 guy. Dan, I think it's funny when you listen to every single interview from a politician, it is either black or white. Neither side's willing to admit that there may have been faults on their side, and the other side obviously is the result that nobody wants. But I think we need to come to the conclusion there may be some fault of both people here. Why did the gunman not just shoot the tires? What else? Let's see if there's a couple more worth mentioning here. There's the Hey Joe. I think I've gone too fast. Hold on. Let's move back to the top. Maybe I'm going the wrong direction. Let's get the freshest. I'm waiting for someone to stand up for America. I'm worried that my generation, Gen X, will be remembered as a generation that allowed themselves to be pushed around, and the only action we take is perpetuating our angst. Are we not doers? Identifying that we've been wronged isn't cutting it. This generation needs to take the reins. Dan, hold on. Scroll down. You cite Alpha News like it's a legitimate news source. That tells me you have no objectivity. Can you remember the last time?
I cannot.
We've even cited Alpha News. We have, if over a period of years we have.
Yeah.
But it has tended to be regarding demonstrably provable factual evidence regarding a case. So, again, you're confusing me with a different show, or I'll say 612 guy. You're doing what you have to do, what I've talked about for many years on this show. You have to demonize me beyond what I've actually said, cited, or done, because I got to be the boogeyman to you. I got to be the monster to you. So when you get in that mindset, facts don't matter. That's the irony of this. It's, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember a bunch of times he's constantly bringing on people from Alpha News and citing them as an objective source on a bit of analysis or interpretation. You're better off, like I said, hammering me for stuff I've done. Because when you hammer me for stuff I haven't, then you've killed your credibility. You've told me you come at this from a certain point of view, and you're only going to be interested in facts that confirm your vision of it. So the reality is you're showing you have no objectivity. If you decide, I think it was him, I'm not sure, but I'm just going to go with it. I don't have to put my name to it. What the hell's the difference? Many wrongs. She shouldn't have been obstructing road and disobeying commands. That's true. He was not justified in the use of force. ICE is also wrong for restricting local doctors' access to victims immediately after crash. As yesterday's guest, Lugar, stated they did not need to be here. Well, he's not the only one who said that. I've said that probably 24 times on this show, if not more. That's why I think I started the show with, for me, there's two threads here. There is how we precisely analyze the sequence of events that led to this tragedy, as in to the murder, if you view it that way, or the killing, if you view it another way, of this individual. But that the other thread goes back to, wasn't this a recipe for disaster? The approach that's being taken, ultimately, as volatile as things are, as much as the temperature has been raised, not lowered, wasn't it inevitable that the worst case scenario was going to play out? The ICE agent who shot the woman was in a previous incident involving a car. That is part of one of the new developments. We did learn that today. I think in Minneapolis.
Yeah, needed some stitches.
Was it 6 months ago?
Yep.
Yeah,
this past summer.
He also writes they are letting. Vance mentioned that in his speech, and we're just going to let the fact he has PTSD slide as he is now under this investigation and has shot a person in their vehicle. They are letting anyone or everyone sign up to be an ICE agent, giving them lethal authority on human beings, even our own citizens. He should have been nowhere near the front of the vehicle in the position he was in or near a gun. Well, I asked that question of the chief. I think I may have asked, maybe he was the only one I asked. But among law enforcement types, who I respect, that question is being asked a bunch today and was yesterday about this. Is that a lack of training? Is that a desire to force a confrontation, invite a confrontation, to give yourself an excuse to then murder? These are all fair questions that should be put into the mix, because I'm not familiar with any law enforcement officer I've ever talked to who said, well, when you have a chance, put yourself when you're a pedestrian, you're walking, not in a car with one of those big, that big grill in the front that basically is supposed to intimidate anybody if they want to try to ram them, to put yourself in front of a vehicle that other people in your group are attempting to stop. Correct? So I don't know.
Can I respond to one of those texts?
Yeah, absolutely.
The fence sitting one?
Yes.
Because that one does, those bother me. Because when stories like these happen, and it happened again yesterday, immediately everybody sprints to their side.
Yeah.
Right? They just sprint.
And they say, their comeback to you, even on that basis, will be, well, I don't need to see anymore. Look at the video. It's as clear as day.
Right.
Which it often isn't, but go ahead.
And that's the point, is there's still so much, like, that sounds good to say, take a stand. What more do you need to see? We don't know what more we need to see yet. I think there's still a lot more that we need to see, not just in this case, but in every time that something like this happens. And it's not as easy when part of your job is to comment on it, have opinions on it, think about it. First of all, anything you say, whatever stand you take, as I think the text line has just proven, you're going to piss like 50% of the people off immediately, even for a thoughtful opinion. Even when you've taken your time, you've read everything you've wanted to read, you've talked to...
And by the way, that ultimately, over a period of sometimes days, sometimes weeks, ends in what? Not a fence-sitting position.
Right.
But saying, now we have enough for me to say, this should not stand, this is inexcusable, this officer should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, or, as in the Londrigan case, a belief that there's not enough of a case here.
Right.
This is not a good case. That's not fence sitting. It's the definition of fence sitting for this guy is if you don't come to his conclusion as soon as he wants you to, that you're a fence sitter. No.
Yeah.
Follow the record of whatever story we talk about over a period of time, over a period of days, weeks, years, whatever the case may be.
Because I also think this is more for you than me, because it's your show and your opinions matter to people. The most reckless thing you can do is just throw out an opinion on something before you've actually put in enough thought and work into it. Because as we see, I mean, that's the headline world that we live in now, right? You see a headline, you go with it, and then you go with it, and then the next person goes with it, and you're passing it along, and then that might prove to be false. And we've talked about a million times the retraction on news that isn't correct is very rarely as loud as the original news. And so I think it's reckless to come on yesterday and have every single answer and every single opinion that we should be. I think that's the most reckless thing that you can do.
Not only is it the most reckless thing, it's the opposite of ballsy. It's the easiest thing to do. There's nothing. You can be a spineless jellyfish and do that on any of these issues. That's not hard to do. But in that world, in that person's world, because he or she has already decided, well, it's a sign of a lack of, testicular fortitude. And I'm sure there's people out there that you could make that accusation of, and that's fine. But it's not hard to do what he wants to do at all. That's the easiest thing to do because that's the red meat he wants. So isn't that the easiest thing? Go ahead, throw the meat out there. Here, chomp away at it.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying,
there's an audience for it.
There's stuff all over this story, including the actions of the officer, that trouble me greatly. There's not any question about that. But I want, my preference is to get to a better place, which I don't think anybody, including that texter, if he was listening yesterday, would say that my position on, generally speaking, the Trump administration's ICE approach in general, almost made this an inevitability that would have been avoided no matter how you feel about the particulars of this case. That's fence sitting? Give me a break. All right, let's break. We'll get caught up. Guest lineup today, as of now, is Michael Hurley at 4:15, and we'll talk international stuff with him, and Russo Radio to talk hockey. That is at 5:02. Stay tuned. See if Eric Musselman's gotten back to me. Damn it, nothing yet. Well, the game's tomorrow night, right? So he's probably practicing right now, maybe?
I do know they had practice at the barn earlier today. Yeah.
Well, he's got nothing else to do.
He's pretty fit. He's probably getting a workout in.
That's true.
Maybe he's at the old Arena Club
Lifetime.
He
is. You're probably right about that. Very, very
Do you
few
think he and
days.
his dad used to work out at the Arena Club Lifetime? Like when it was Northwest?
Oh, I saw him there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember. I would have seen Eric too. I definitely saw Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost all the time.
My dad and I used to
Eric,
go get shots
Bill,
up there.
Saul Brandis
Oh,
would
yeah.
show up.
What's wrong with winning?
Because it was all in the same spot, basically.
That was their practice facility.
That's true.
People don't know.
You could watch practice before they got a lot more secretive.
Yep.
If you're on the oval,
the walking track,
running, over the top of it, the second floor, you could see a whole practice.
I spent a lot of time trying to get Pooh Richardson's attention from that walking track. It was awesome.
That's the best.
It was the best. My dad worked downtown. We'd walk over, get some shots up. Maybe the Wolves will be there.
Sources are telling me there's good reason to believe that there will be a state-level investigation in one form or another. That will be interesting to watch going forward, because how challenging is that, depending on what, how much material you have, how much access you have to the material necessary to do the job fairly. The bigger issue, apparently, that is rankling, one could say, prosecutors around the country is, and I missed this, if the vice president said this during the presser, and I missed it, forgive me, but apparently he's saying that there'll be, no, actually I did hear this part. They're appointing a special prosecutor for fraud. Because now it is red meat. We're going to get in on all of it. But that what you'd like to think is in a traditional fashion. I know it's silly to think about anything traditional right now, but in a legal fashion, then you'd want that prosecutor to report to the attorney general. But apparently in this case, this special prosecutor will report directly to, guess who? The vice president of the president of the United States. What could possibly go wrong there?
Totally normal.
It doesn't make any sense. And there's also, I think, a belief that, with the assumption is, and we don't know this, but there's some speculation that the victim's family might file a wrongful death case, which would also, I think, in a legal sense, obligate certain doors to be opened. Correct? So again, we are in such early stages through all of this. It doesn't sound as if we had a lot of any violence, right, of any note last night. I know there's been a lot of yelling. There have been some confrontations. There's been some use of pepper spray, I believe, or whatever they call the chemical irritants these days. But I've not read about much of any. I haven't heard anything, thank God, about injuries or that sort of thing. So we'll see.
There have been some demonstrations down at the federal building.
That's fine.
And things like that, but nothing too crazy from what I've seen.
That's I think all that would be very good news. Toy department mentioning, and I don't know, our chances to get Eric might be, in fairness to him, not good, because I didn't reach out to him till just about an hour before the show. But as Royce writes, what is fascinating about tomorrow night, and again, this is a generational issue a little bit, in that youngsters, the name Bill Musselman for a lot in our audience isn't going to resonate, and I'm not attacking that. There's nothing wrong with that, because he goes back a ways. But I guess it makes sense, but I guess I didn't realize that this will be the very first time ever since Bill was the head coach of the Gophers that his son will be, walking up the ladder or up the steps to the floor to Williams Arena to be the head coach of a college basketball team. And, I've talked to Eric a lot about the relationship with his father over the years, and he was very close to his dad, but he also doesn't always like to, I think, cut open a vein so much on it. But I got to think it is going to be emotional for him today, or I should say Friday, right? I mean, I have to believe, because, I think Eric was about, for those who don't remember, the kids who don't remember, Bill Musselman came aboard, what was it, 71?
71, 72, I think,
Early 70s. In fact, he and Bob Knight came on the scene about the same time. Knight to Indiana, and obviously Bill Musselman to Minnesota. And one of the fascinating things about the Musselman era, there was some controversy, but before that,
it ended poorly.
It ended very poorly. But before that, it was, we're not just, he's a fundamentals guy, right? But he also was a showman. And he always believed, well, we're here to put on a show. And a lot of times the fundamentals guys are the guys who don't, they almost mock that whole concept. He never did. So they would do, in pregame, a Harlem Globetrotter style pregame when they come out on the court in a way that convinced a lot of fans that I got to get there early. It became a thing. And Eric was on the sidelines helping out in some of that. I think he was like 7 or 8 years old at that point. And so the idea that this many years, so how old is, double check how old Eric Musselman is now.
I think he's 64, 61, 62, somewhere in there.
So what, 55 years later or more, he's back in that same gym, same floor, in a very, very different position. And,
61 years old.
There were times where I wondered, well, might he end up being a Wolves head coach because he was an assistant, obviously early for his dad. Or might he be a Gophers head coach, which I pushed several times. But the fact that now it really hasn't happened until now, I got to believe there'll be some emotion swirling about his head. Don't you think?
I'd be stunned if they weren't. Because like you said, because of his relationship and the fact that his dad's been gone a long time. I mean, I'm sure he'll be thinking about his dad a lot, just being there. And when did Bill die? It was a while ago, right?
It's been a while now, yes.
So... And I'm sure it is for the fans that have straddled the eras. Yeah. And there's still a lot of them there, too, at Williams Arena. If you go, that have been here for both of those, that had tickets in the 70s. There's still a lot of those people.
The job, one of the interesting things about the job I had, especially when I was still writing, is, and how many times this story has repeated itself with me, and I'm sure it happens with other columnists in other towns as well, where at the time I was writing about them, or they were actively involved as a player or a coach, I could be pretty critical. And the tension could be pretty palpable, frankly, between us. And that's played out a few times, including, obviously, with a regular guest, Glenn Mason, but it did with Bill. And yet, years after he left here, he became probably one of, I would say there were two guys who I might end up talking to for an hour and a half to 2 hours at about 11 o'clock at night. It's the only thing that would keep me up because usually my teeth's in the glass too early. And one of them was Flip Saunders, and the other was Bill Musselman. And we would just talk basketball. At some point you get past all that, maybe you understand each other a little bit better. And he was a basketball savant, man, and he was a sponge. And his kid has a lot of that in him. I've always told Eric, I think he's a saner version of his dad. And just, even though he every once in a while you can see some Bill in him.
Oh, yeah, he's got some.
But, because he definitely does. But he's got a little better bedside manner that he's developed a little bit, or maybe he had from the beginning.
At least publicly.
At least publicly. That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
And has had a heck of a coaching run in a number of places, and now, as we said at USC. But it's funny how that repeats itself a few times, where somebody that, and again, the roles are different. Then, okay, my job is to comment on whatever you're doing. Well, once the coach is no longer here, once Bill Musselman wasn't coaching here, there was really nothing for me to opine on regarding him, and so it made it easier to get to another place. And where that other place you get to is a more human place, actually, where you're just talking to that person as another person, as opposed to someone that you're covering and you feel like there's a little bit of natural tension. So I don't know. We'll find out also what's going to be the tipping point. I mean, is it when a bunch more, like 5 more Big Ten games? Is it what's the tipping point to get it to a place where the crowds will demonstrably improve because they're still not there at Williams Arena, I don't think, right?
Yeah, it's better than earlier.
Yeah.
I think tomorrow night will be good because it's a Friday night.
Yeah.
Which never
You're coming
happens.
off another nice upset victory.
Yes. And Wisconsin will be a good crowd because it's Wisconsin, and there's a lot of Wisconsin people that live here, the fan has learned, so that will be a good crowd.
Yes.
Yeah, probably a couple more, but I do think Nico's approach to the whole thing has been appealing to people.
I agree.
He's been very frontal about, I believe it matters here. I believe that it's a sleeper cell. I refuse to believe that there's nobody here that cares about college basketball, and it's our job to make sure that we bring that sleeper cell to the barn.
Yeah.
And obviously games, as he said it, games like Tuesday night where you beat Iowa, like that matters to people, and that gets people's attention a little bit.
Well,
and if you can string a few more together, then you really got something.
I've said this from the beginning, and I don't think this is going on any kind of a limb. The man, he knows how to coach basketball. There's no question about that part of it. The issue is going to be, can you get a high enough level of talent consistently here to work your magic? That's always going to be, I think it's always going to be more that with him here than, well, does he know what he's doing? Yeah, he knows what he's doing. And often you prove that actually at even tougher places than Minnesota to win. It's just a matter of, can you get the players? And in this case, you keep the players, which of course we're in a whole new era about that. Let's make this the top of the hour pause. Don't forget, we got Michael Hurley about 4:15 to talk international relations. Even though that feels like it's very much on the back burner, it's still very real. Russo Radio is scheduled for 5:02. Back in just a minute.